Hello and welcome back to the MMA Split Pick Show, the first pick show of the brand new year 2023. It has been a long old wait. 3.5 weeks we have gone waiting for some fights. We've had a whole new year since our last fight card. We've had Christmas. We've had a whole bunch of other crap happen. And yeah, a pretty good slate of fights on the way, kicking off with a pretty exciting fight night headlined by originally Kelvin Gastelum versus Nasruddin Imavov. That was the main event that I initially did my pick for.
I believe it. I don't know if someone was speculating if this has actually happened, but something like just eating a knee during a light sparring session, just kind of ducked at the wrong time as the other guy was coming up. But yeah, required some emergency dentistry work. So yeah, 2023 first card of the year, first pull out of a headliner for the year. I mean, fair enough though, good reasons, but already
It's nice to know
how the year starts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we're starting as we left off, really, aren't we?
Yeah, too much more of the same.
Unfortunately so, although this does mean, interestingly enough, that Sean Strickland is now headlining back-to-back UFC cards.
Yeah, and why not?
I thought that was
think of a reason
cool.
why not. Probably too soon. But, other than that, why not?
Well, we're going to be getting into all the reasons why and why not as we go through our pick show. It is a brand new year, and we are still not 100% sure just how ahead I am of Josh. So, Josh, I am proposing, since I have done the good job of already sending across my picks, that we wipe the slate clean and start this as a new season for the new year.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't looking forward to having to, and both of us were going to have to do this, go through all the episodes and add it up. Yeah, I'm happy to do the clean slate, but at the same time, I'm going to leave it open for you. If in a week or two you're like, actually, we're being lazy, let's go back through and tally them up. Because I still feel like that'd be the right thing to do. But you caught me on a lazy day.
Here's the problem I've got. Some of the episodes, in fact, the specific episodes we'd have to go back through, are basically all of the episodes where, for different technical reasons, me being in Thailand and a whole variety of things, our production quality took an absolute nosedive into pretty much the unwatchable territory. So I feel like trying to revisit those would be an even more exhausting task for this reason.
I mean, it's not too bad skipping through and just getting the results. I'm pretty sure before the end of the month you're going to want to revisit it. But yeah, I mean, I think I think I'd eaten into it. So I think you had something like a 3-point lead. It wasn't too much anyway. But yeah, let's start with the clean slate for now. If you want to change your mind, I'm more than happy to go back and we're both gonna have to go back and just kind of plow on through the results and get it all actually.
I think we need to take the same approach that Dana White is taking with his and Dana White's wife are currently taking with their marriage.
You want to go
clean slate. We just clean slate. Past is the past. We're moving on with the future.
Just debuted a show called
Power Slap.
So, I mean,
well, do you want to know something funny? When I first saw the video, I honestly thought it was all going to turn out to be a promotion for Power Slap. I thought there's just no fucking way. There's no way that you're 10 days away from this launching on TBS and this happens. It didn't seem conceivable to me.
Well, there was his mum's statements about his wife giving him a black eye on the honeymoon. I think it was Bloody Elbow dug out an article they did at the time about that. But yeah, I don't know. Look, Dana White, as far as I'm aware, seems to pretty brazenly be marketed as a womanizing cokehead. And he denies it, but also I think he kind of leans into it a little bit. These are very well established rumors, and his wife seemingly has a track record of attacking him, and he did slap her back. It looked like she might have slapped him harder than he slapped her, but either way, there's no excuse for domestic violence. And if this is the kind of shit those two are doing in public in front of people, I dread to think how rough it is, not just for them, but for their family as well. Even if they're only putting hands on each other, just like that's got to be tough for the kids. But what are they like behind closed doors? It's a very
well, here's the thing. I think they're both like we'll touch on this subject since I decided to bring it up.
They both committed domestic violence. They both done shit.
Listen, and she's obviously, you could say, well, she hit him first. You could also say that he's significantly larger. His hit has much more potential. He should do more restraint. But with domestic violence, like I always hate whenever people get into the argument of like, it's more okay if it does less damage. That's always where I get like quite pissed off, because it's not so much like the physical damage is the point. It's the act and the power dynamic. And
not just this time or the other times, it's the next time. Because if the next time is like where it gets really out of hand, like just, you know what I mean? Like you have to deal with these things.
Well, also you can't say that like, because once people start talking about it's more okay depending on damage, you start getting to the arguments of like, it's okay for the smaller partner to hit the larger partner because he's bigger. You know what I mean? And that's not okay.
It's a principle. A line's been crossed, and once you've crossed that line, there's an old. I was a big Terry Pratchett fan as a kid, and there's just like a great line he has is like, once you go over, it doesn't matter how far you go over. Everything after that is just haggling. Once you've crossed the line, you've crossed the line. Whether it was a little or a lot, everything else after that is just a negotiation. You're just haggling over how bad it was. You crossed the line. So yeah, it's crazy timing with the show though. Crazy.
The interesting, you talk about like what happens before. This is what I probably think. Okay, I don't think Dana's a wife beater. I think that they've been married for like close to 30 years. Dana has a lot of money. He works a lot. He's away a lot. I would imagine that there's quite a bit of womanizing, and that's a speculation. That's a guess. That's not me stating any facts. That's just a hypothesis.
We're just repeating the same shit as Bob says, and well, frankly, just about everybody else says.
I think, listen, I think they have one of those marriages, and it's not like he's allowed to do this or she's okay with it, but he knows that she's a good wife and the mum of the kids and stuck with him in the hard times and all the rest. He probably has some fun. She probably knows that she does this, but also knows that there's a lot of benefits to Dana as well, but isn't happy about it. So my guess is that these situations happen. If you watch the video, it looks like he's telling her some bad news and then consoling her. My guess would be he's told her about there's a mistress she's found out about, or maybe he's had a blackmail report from a mistress or something, and it's just a situation that's going to be dealt with, and he mentions it to her, and they're drinking and she reacts because it's a wound that's obviously been existing before and reopened. And then he probably responds because I imagine that's what, if this happens behind closed doors, that's what happens. She hits him a couple of times, then he hits her back and restrains, and then it calms down. I don't think they're beating the shit out of each other. I think they just have a couple of really unhealthy dynamics that clearly haven't been dealt with. But
it made me, but honestly, it's very like a best case scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only interesting thing is where Dana's kind of screwed himself is he's spoken very black and white in terms of like how people should accept and in terms of like how the UFC views people that have hit women. He said there's no second, that's the one thing you can't come back from. But he said that in 2014, and he did obviously then sign Greg Hardy a few years later. He's not stepping down. There are groups that are calling for him to step down, but I don't really think that there's going to be a huge groundswell for it. But it is kind of one of those things where I can understand that people will look at this and think if you were in a different sport or a different industry, that situation would not be a survivable situation. And I do think there's something to that. I just don't necessarily think that I agree with the situation that he was in involving him resigning. But I also think that it's kind of weird that he just goes back to work and that's it for the moment. There should be like an in-between somewhere.
I know, but it's all coming to a head in a very natural way. The ESPN deal is going to end soon. I imagine renegotiations or kind of taking a look at putting out to tender, as it were, for other networks will already be going ahead. Yeah, maybe he survives this. Maybe he doesn't. I do think that when he goes, it's gonna give the UFC the onus it needs to kind of position the fighters more in the spotlight. Get them to kind of like sell the narrative of the organization and the sport a little more. And I think it will make it easier for them to give some kind of semblance of like a fair and proper like hierarchy in terms of the rankings and making championship fights. Because when Tony Ferguson talks about Dana White privilege, that's a real fucking thing. I won't be sad when it changes. I think it's a change that needs to be made. Nothing against Dana personally, although I could delve on that as well.
It will be different.
Yeah, different in a necessary way.
We'll see. I think we should do a whole podcast talking about what the UFC would be. We should do a special episode at some point in the not too distant future, where we just discuss how we think things would be different, what would change, theories, all the rest. I think that would be quite a cool episode to do.
Yeah, and tie in also kind of like fighter pay and the change that would have on the sport when fighters do actually get paid their due worth, because it won't be as lucrative a sport once he gets to that stage. It'll be kind of like a bit of a drop off, especially for the smaller organizations. But yeah, man, we should definitely kind of like piece together a whole kind of like thing about where the landscape's inevitably going to have to head.
Not to mention, dude, the Ali Act is being reintroduced this year, and if MMA was to push forward or get included into that, it would completely change everything in terms of how the structure of the sport would work. So that's something.
System would disappear.
Yeah, so we should do one. We'll tie all of that in at some point, maybe this month.
Right. Well, only press market though. That only applies to something.
True. Well, we spent about 20 minutes chin wagging about some this weekend's action related stuff. So let's get into this weekend's action, starting with our main event. Sean Strickland, love him or hate him, you got to appreciate him because he steps up when other people don't. He was fighting 3.5 weeks ago, got a really tough decision loss, a fight that a lot of people could argue he won, but it was a very hard fight to score. And he's getting straight in there against a seriously dangerous opponent, and one that actually, I'll be honest, I think is a harder fight than the Cannonier fight was for him.
Yeah. I mean, it depends how the fight plays out, but I can certainly see it going that way. Imavov's a huge problem. I mean, be honest, when it was Gastelum Imavov, were you picking Gastelum? Because I was going Imavov on that one.
I was going Imavov.
And I don't think a guy that's, just done a training camp, already peaked, had a tough fight against a heavy hitter, although, it's not like he took an exorbitant amount of damage, like the commission's cleared it. It is what it is. It's the wrong time to be fighting so soon. I assume it's going to be another 5-rounder. I haven't actually.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's a real uphill struggle, and Imavov is a fucking dangerous guy. So I got to go Nasruddin all day. I know we don't do the methods anymore, but this one reeks of finish.
The only thing I'd say, it all depends on how much damage Strickland picks up in that Cannonier fight, because, and to a certain extent as well, what did Sean Strickland do over his Christmas and New Year? If he stayed reasonably fit and kept training, he should still have a lot of the conditioning from the Cannonier fight. But did he take too much damage to go into a fight like this? The real irony is that I actually think Strickland has a lot of tools that would match up well against Imavov. Really good defensive wrestling, very good at staying on his feet, tends to actually prefer guys that are trying to take him down because I think his striking style is a little bit more effective against those guys. I think against your higher level, more technical strikers, he can be found out a little bit. But this short notice, he's fighting a completely different type of opponent to what he was dealing with Cannonier. Yeah, I'm Imavov as well, man. And I respect Sean Strickland for taking this, and I like Sean Strickland, and I don't want to see Sean go on a 3-fight losing streak. But he's going on a 3-fight losing streak.
Yeah, I think so. All right, do you want to move on to the co-main?
Yep. Dan 50K Ige is back. He is taking on the rising hotshot at the moment, Damon Jackson, who's on a 3-4 fight win streak, I think, at the moment. Finishing guys, looking really, really good. Basically, apart from the Ilia Topuria fight, where I think everybody now appreciates just how good Ilia Topuria is. I mean, he's got some really, really good wins in the UFC now. And I never thought I would pick Damon Jackson over Dan Ige. But I think form comes into this a little. Dan Ige is coming in on a 3-fight losing streak. Now, is he fighting a pretty high level of opponent? Yeah. Josh Emmett, Zombie. Who else did he fight? Calvin Cater was another one of his recent losses. Like, he doesn't lose to bad guys. But I also think you get to a point when you're looking across and your last win was Gavin Tucker. And that was in 2020, maybe 2021. So I think 2020. You're going over 2 years without a win, and that can start getting in your mind a little bit. So I'm going Damon Jackson.
I'm not even bringing Ige's recent run of form into it. I just look at it on paper. Trigger happy, aggressive footwork style wrestler in Ige against the much longer, competent wrestler with a submission game in Jackson. I just see Ige falling into any halfway sophisticated trap Jackson lays. Even if he doesn't get finished, he's going to drop at least 2 rounds. It's going to be a tough one for him. I've got to go with the Leech all day.
Feature fight. Punahele Soriano taking on Roman Kopylov. I like both fighters, man, but I'm really hot on Soriano. And yeah, it's got to be Soriano for me. Got to be Soriano.
Kopylov looks all right when he loses. He's a fighter I do enjoy watching. I think Puna's got this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on that one.
I know you've actually sent me your picks. I haven't looked at them yet, but we're going identical at the moment.
That's interesting. Well, mine are pre-marked, so no questions can be made as to the authenticity. Although if you would like to go first ahead of me, that is also okay.
Yeah, that makes you feel better because I haven't seen yours. So I've got a different lineup to you so far. I'm not looking at anything other than MMA fight cards, which can be a bit hit and miss. Is it Charles Johnson, Jimmy Flick next, rounding out the main card?
Nah, I've got them on the prelims.
Damn, see, I've got a 4-fight main card. All right, give me the next fight then.
I have got Ketlin Vieira taking on Raquel Pennington.
Easy one, picks itself, Vieira.
Yeah, I hate picking against Raquel, man. But Vieira's big. She's strong. She's proven an ability to figure out and work past mistakes that have cost her in the past. You know, I think she's learned from the Yana Kunitskaya fights. She's not getting hit with anything clean like when she fought Aldana. The boxing's getting better. She's using her wrestling a lot more. And I mean, she's beaten back-to-back world champions. Now, Pennington can scrap with anybody, but I think she's going to struggle with that size. And
she's from the same era. Over the hill champions Vieira just put away. You know, she's put those miles on at the top level for a little too long. This is not the way to get back to a title shot. You know, Vieira's not the chick you want to go through. This is just a bad idea.
No, I couldn't agree more. Vieira all day, and I think that probably gets her a title shot.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, rounding out the main card for me, I've got Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Raoni Barcelos. I hate picking against Barcelos, but Umar is that guy. And we've talked about it before. He's 15-0 for a reason. He's the guy to really watch out for that's not being talked about at the moment at bantamweight.
Light on his feet, absolutely explosive kickboxing talent, and he can grapple. But more importantly, when you do give up any kind of limb or opening on the ground, he has that submission game as well. He is terrifying, and I rate Raoni Barcelos, but yeah, I'm going Nurmagomedov.
It's a good fight for Umar though. It's a good test, but I think he beats him, and then he's going to start looking at ranked guys.
Yeah, this is the biggest name he's taken on so far.
Right, onto the prelims now. Headlining the prelims, we've got Claudio Ribeiro taking on Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Man, I'm going.
Man, but this one again. Sorry, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do my.
No, please do. Please do. Please do.
A lot of these fights I found quite easy to pick, and yeah, I'm going Ribeiro. Or Ribeiro.
Oh.
I don't know the pronunciation on this one. My buddy told me if it looks like a Portuguese name, you don't fuck with it. You just say the R's like you would. But I don't know where Ribeiro falls on that list. Is that Brazilian? Is that Portuguese? Is that Brazilian Portuguese? I'm a fucking Ingro, bro. I don't know.
Well, I'm also picking Ribeiro, so I'm gonna. I hate picking against Abdul, man. There's so much physicality there. There's so much potential power. He seems like a really nice guy, but it just doesn't seem to come together for him in the UFC.
Nah, I mean, he's got like one knockout, I think, in the UFC, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I think his UFC record. Let me look up his UFC record because I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure.
Hang on a second, am I looking at the right? Yeah.
Wait, I'm not even going far enough down the list. I saw him short twice in a row. Six knockouts. 5 knockout. You're an idiot, Josh. Charlie Ward, count.
He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. They keep him because they know they've got something. You know what I mean? There's potential there. The way he knocked out ADC, it just doesn't come together for him. And, you know, he's trying middleweight now. I think that's a better weight class for him. I don't know a lot about Ribeiro. I wouldn't usually pick guys I don't know a lot about. I just feel like it's just sometimes the guy just isn't the guy. Sorry, Abdul. I'm going Claudio.
Yeah.
Next one up, Mateusz Rebecki taking on Nick Fiore. Nick Fiore, I believe, making his debut. I'm going Rebecki, though.
Yeah, I'm going Rebecki as well.
Don't know a lot about either guys. I'm just sticking with experience on that one. Next up at bantamweight, this is always fun. 2 undefeated guys. Someone's has got to go. Javid Basharat taking on Mateos Mendonca. I'm going to go with the guy that I've seen fight, and that's Basharat. I've been very impressed with him.
Yeah, and I'm not picking fast again, apparently.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, mate. It's I do it automatically, man. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Basharat brothers. I'm gonna go Javid as well.
Please don't be offended. Take it as a sign that I don't believe you're just stealing my picks.
Because you put in those insinuations about you getting your picks in first.
Oh no, I was making a joke, dude. If anything, it would be more likely that if you were doing that, you would go for an opposite to try and win the pick show rather than sticking and matching.
Yeah, I am finding this pretty frustrating thus far.
Okay, let's see if it's a clean sweep.
Everyone the same. It's
Let's see if it's a clean sweep. Okay, next up, Alan Nascimento taking on Carlos Hernandez. Who have you got, Josh?
I'm going Nascimento. Going Nascimento. Going Nascimento.
Funnily enough, so am I.
Yeah. I
Take this, if anyone's listening this far, please take this as a sign that like we don't do a betting show. We don't even recommend that people do bet. That's your money. Do with it as you wish. We're not going to make recommendations, but maybe bet on this one. Maybe bet.
I don't think we've picked any dogs here. Like,
Yeah.
I'd honestly be shocked if anyone we picked was an underdog in any of these fights.
Well, I know, put it this way, I know one of the ones coming up, I've definitely picked the favorite because I've seen it being discussed in the news as to the fact that this guy's a favorite.
All right, I'm completely off piece with the setup. So who's next?
Okay, so we're both going Nascimento. Next up, Dan Argueta even, sorry, taking on Nick Aguirre, another debutant, also undefeated.
Oh shit. Okay, so I had the Isaac Bulgarian fight cancelled, so they've got a replacement for Argueta.
Yes, and it's some guy called Nick Aguirre coming in on short notice.
All right, Argueta it is.
So yeah, I already had Argueta. I had Argueta for the previous matchup as well. I remember him from The Ultimate Fighter. Just a cool guy. Cool guy. Kind of one of those people you want to see do well.
Nice. And to be honest, fair play. Shit, I still haven't got the name of him from me. Who's he fighting? Nick
Aguirre.
Man, fair play for stepping up and saving this fight.
Yeah, no, good man. Good man. Take your opportunity. Undefeated.
It might not be competitive on paper, but you know, this is it's not how not the way sport works, not the way MMA works. We're going to get some surprises, some upsets. We're not going to get all of these right. It's just impossible to constantly pick favorites and get it all right. It never happens.
He's 7-0. He's undefeated. He's going to be full of confidence. Who knows? Let's see what happens. All right, I've got 2 fights left to do. Charles Johnson was originally meant to be taking on Zhalgas Zamagulov, which would have been an excellent fight. Instead, Jimmy Flick is back. Everyone remembers Jimmy Flick getting one of the best submissions we saw. Was it 2021 or 2020?
I'm not sure, but wasn't Zumagulov Johnson's last fight?
I don't believe so. Oh,
I'll probably find out.
It was. Sorry, you're right. So it was meant to be on this card, and then it got cancelled because they did it at an earlier point, and now Charles Johnson is fighting Jimmy Flick.
Yeah, fun matchup, I think. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Flick's fun. I think you're right. I think 2020. Yeah, Charles Johnson. I don't know, man. I like Charles Johnson. This is going to be a good fight. I think this one's a bit closer. Out of all the other fights I've kind of taken a look at today, I'm still going Charles Johnson though. Tell me you're going Flick.
No, I'm going Charles Johnson, man. And in fact, this is the fight that's been in the news because the line jumped a few days ago very rapidly. So Charles Johnson, neither of them. Charles Johnson was a -2.
Sorry.
Charles Johnson was a -200 favorite, and then he suddenly jumped up to a -500 favorite. And Jimmy Flick was asked about it. He was just like, "I don't know, dude. All I can tell you is I've never been coached or met James Krause."
Sorry, bro. I didn't realize I was going to step on your toes with the joke. I didn't know Jimmy Flick had already done it. My bad.
Yeah.
First, when you're on the prelims of a fight night, it doesn't take a lot of money relative
to jump the line. Yeah,
to move the betting line that much. So, and honestly, I've talked about it a little bit before, but it's a genuine tactic for like some professional gamblers is to like put, say you're going to put 1 million on, put 200 grand on the other way, so that then the bookies like over handicap the odds going the way you want it to go, and then you put the rest of the 800k on, make more money than you would if you put 1 million on at the original odds, kind of thing. So I can't remember. It's like kind of like a form of like manipulating the betting line. I can't remember the proper name for it.
Yeah, I can imagine that happening. Like you say, if it's the first prelim fight, it's going to have the least amount of action. Maybe that's where James Krause's system failed him. If he just stuck to the big fights, maybe he would have slipped through the cracks. Allegedly, because he's not been found guilty of anything.
Podcasts from what you've explained to me about it, like I think that was his Achilles heel, was talking about it, right?
Yeah. Well, it certainly doesn't help. I mean, Derek Minner didn't help the situation as well.
You know, simple fucks.
Well, listen, maybe you just had the sweet elderflower smelling aftertaste of Laura Senko's vagina clouding his judgment. The man was high on life. He thought he was winning at everything. Nothing could stop him. Laura Senko's husband isn't even stopping him.
All right, so we picked everything exactly the fucking same.
Yeah, well, there's one fight left. There's still hope, and you're going to have to announce it because on Google it does not tell me who Sajara Eubanks is fighting. All I know is that she's got a 12-4 record.
Priscilla Cachoeira.
Oh, easy. I'm going. Oh, okay. So I did pick.
Go on.
Okay, no,
send this one
no,
over.
I sent it. I've sent it over, and I've sent it over, and I can prove it. I have still picked.
Oh, all right,
no, I didn't know. Even though I didn't know that it was Priscilla Cachoeira, I still picked Priscilla Cachoeira. I just picked whoever was fighting Sajara Eubanks. And I can confirm it because I've already sent them across.
Yeah. And, I used to be pretty high on Sarge, but I think Priscilla's probably going to be a pretty big favorite on that one. All right.
I don't know.
So Clean Slate is going to get rolled over to next week, I guess.
No, this is in. Yeah, as in next week when we.
This week.
Oh, of course, because we picked exactly the same. Yeah. Well, we'll still tally. We'll still tally how many we get correct.
Oh yeah, there's basically we can only lose now, because if it's like, if we don't get at least 10 wins out of this, then
we look like Muppets,
but perfectly in sync.
Yeah, which is the worst possible situation for a podcast. Is we're both equally wrong in exactly the same way.
Yeah, like it's better when one of us gets 2 fights wrong and the other gets 3 fights wrong. Then it's like, even if you didn't win, like we're winning. But like when you're going head to head, like there's no small victory to take. It's like we just put our fucking balls on the line.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not changing any picks.
This
is one of those weeks where I felt very, very set and certain about the picks I was making.
Yeah, it's a fun card, but it's not a card where there's a lot of big surprises or extremely close fights sticking out. I actually think the Gastelum fight would have been an interesting one for Imavov. And I do still think that Strickland poses problems. I just don't see a reality where he takes advantage of those on short notice. And the rest of the fights, I think, speak for themselves.
Yeah.
On that note, guys.
That Blake Johnson fight looked. And maybe Umar Barcelos, maybe. We'll see.
We'll see. I'm just glad we got some fights back. Exactly. Fights are back. Premier League's back. Dolphins made the playoffs but are getting eliminated next week. So I'm glad I've got fights to focus on instead. And guys, new year, cool things happening for the show. Expect more content. I know we've been saying that for a while, but there's been a lot of problems and setbacks and technical failures, but we are plowing forward into the new year. Like, subscribe, comment, all of that jazz. You all know the drill. And as always, bye Dave, bye Laurie, and bye Trifo if you still watch.
Bye Laurie, bye Dave.